X-Men. Get it!
Arr, matey, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle or the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
Arr, I be Adam.
I be your wee Captain Zack. And Adam, how long will we be doing these pirate voices today?
I think we could keep it up all episode.
Last time we did that, we got several bad iTunes reviews because they said we had too many voice filters and no one is buying the bit that we are scrolls.
There's no filter here. It's just two pirates discussing pirates on the Pirate Podcast.
Okay, but in reality, I don't have a glass of water with me, and I've already hurt my throat by doing the pirate voices for that.
You mean a bottle of rum?
Rum's in the pantry. I keep bourbon in here. That's close. I mean, they're just brown. Well, they're close in color.
Yeah, so we're not going to do pirate voices all episode.
We got to stop.
We are talking about pirates this week.
Yeah, we are, Adam. We're talking about pirates because gentleman Chris Manning said, "Folks, I'd like you to talk about pirates this week." Ask that on Patreon. You know how the X-Men have a deep relationship with pirates.
Sure. Pop up quite a few. We've covered a couple of pirate stories here on the show before.
It's weird that, Adam, you and I didn't immediately jump to, well, we should do some Starjammer stories. We didn't even think of that.
We did have a Starjammers episode not too long ago. So I think that might have been coming back to the well. I like what we've come up with for this episode. And
I like that we came up with it.
Yes. It's an interesting mix of new, old, and in between.
Yeah, and we got this new, old, and in between again, thanks to Chris Manning. Chris went over to patreon.com/comicsxf, dug deep into their hearts and pocketbooks, tossed a couple coins into our coffers, said, folks, we'd love you to talk about Marauders from the Dawn of X. And if you want to be like Chris, you can go over to patreon.com/comicsxf. It supports everything we do on ComicsXF.
It's a good website. I don't know if people know that, but they should go and check it out. It's good stuff.
Great website. Daddy made you so much content there, and you can enjoy that content to your heart's content. While we are content with the content that Jerry Duggan is giving us in Marauders 1 through 12 and also 16.
Oh my goodness! So this is. What was the other thing we read like over a year of? Oh, that was Mutant X.
That was Mutant X.
This is a much more enjoyable experience, but I was still like, are we really going to read 13 issues of Marauders? But gotta say, very glad I did.
Here's the thing. We thought about doing just the first 6 issues that form. This is going to have full spoilers for the book Marauders, where Kitty Pryde has a pirate ship, where Kitty Pryde dies halfway through, and then COVID happens, and then everyone's like, man, Kitty Pryde's been dead for a really long time. And they're like, no, she hasn't. There's not been a lot of comic books that have come out, folks. It's fine.
I was pleasantly surprised going back and reading this as a whole, because one of the things that I was not doing, and I'm sure a lot of other readers weren't as well, is if you were reading all of the books, you were probably reading them as they came out in the way they were published, in the order they were published. And it is interesting to go back and read just one of the titles and read them subsequently over the course of the first year, because I was really shocked at just how streamlined it was. You know, Jerry clearly has the entire thing mapped out, and the only thing that really gets in the way of the last issue, which is 16, is that 10 of Swords just happened to fall towards the end of that.
And if you just skipped 10 of Swords, You would also just know, hey, in between these two issues, there was a sword fight.
Right. Hey, there's like a little blurb about there being some otherworld nonsense that's delayed their revenge plot. But, you know, there are a lot of strands going through this. And this book, of course, capitalizes on the basic premise of X-Men pirate book.
Yeah. So the way I understand it, and I do not know where I heard this, it could have been when Jerry was on the podcast in the Lost episode, is that Jerry had a couple ideas. He had a Hellfire Club idea that he wanted to do. And then he also had a pirate idea in his head. And he smashed those two together. And I think in this arc, it mostly works because the Hellfire Club is so central to this. This is where Kitty Pryde can't walk through the gates. She doesn't know why. Is that resolved yet? No. Have they forgotten about it? No, people. It's just like a plot. It's going to come back at some point. Jerry's writing X-Men. It'll happen. I don't know what to tell you. Be patient. Sometimes you don't get all the answers you want right away.
Yeah. I assume that eventually we will get an explanation for that, but for right now, I'm fine with not knowing.
It does mean that Kitty Pryde has to get around on a boat.
Well, and that's why we get the premise to begin with. And the other thing that you mentioned is that this is also a book about formation of the new Hellfire Club. So Emma is a huge star, kind of the Charlie to the Angels here, and is assigning a kind of a new look and personality to Kate, who's no longer known as Kitty anymore. And Kate, well, that's not the right thing. She's not assigning it, but she's giving Kate an opportunity to grow into a new individual that is more of a grown-up. And
well, if you look at the leaders of Krakoa, Magneto has seen Kate as a child. Like,
right.
It is nothing against Magneto. He has just literally been like, no, he imprinted on her the moment he saw her, and he's like, oh, this is a child, and I must protect her with my life. Mm-hmm. Charles Xavier sees everyone as a child.
Right.
All the other X-Men know Kate as their kid friend that hangs out with them.
Right.
Emma, while she said, yeah, I was your teacher, I could have been your teacher once. Emma's like, but you're grown. I'll let you be grown. And gives her an opportunity to be the Red Queen of the Hellfire Club, which also gives Emma the opportunity to ruin Sebastian Shaw. And Emma's mad that Sebastian Shaw came back to life after she just murdered him. Or not come back to life, but back to... It's left unrevealed if she actually did murder on him. But bringing him back to an active role.
Yeah, because Sebastian has been put in charge of the other premise behind the ships that are out there, one of which is not a ship, and we'll talk about that, is that they are in charge of distributing the life-saving Krakoan medicines that are not being shipped via X-Corps, right?
Yeah. It's the Hellfire Trading Company is essentially running the black market.
Well, there's two sides of it, right? There's sort of like the humanitarian side, which is Kitty's side. And then there's also, like you said, the black market side, which is being run by Sebastian Shaw. And Shaw, obviously wants to control the whole shebang so that he has more power. And Emma is always several steps ahead of him until there is a plot that Sebastian does succeed in killing Kate Pryde and what looks like to be Lockheed as well. And that is left kind of dangling for a while.
For a few issues. I think by 8, everyone knows what's going on. But again, man, the pandemic changes how I remember reading these books versus in reality how they were supposed to come out. Dang it.
Yeah, and that's why it's really fun going back and reading these right one after another, because it's a pretty swift moving story. There's no delay. There's no, there's no like pedaling in place. It's just moving. So
it's moving, and I think a lot of what these 16 issues are doing, it really is establishing a new status quo. It is.
Mhm.
I'm saying this, and I'm just making the comparison in terms of what they do, not in the overall quality. It's very similar to what House of X was doing in saying, this is what everyone's role is going to be now. It establishes, hey, this is what Madripoor is going to be up to. This is what this is going to be our antagonists against mutants. These are the people who are going to be pushing against the Marauders and things like that. It's establishing what Kate's up to. It's giving Storm somewhere to be while she finishes up Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Black Panther. It gives Emma her status quo and really cements, like, since she's not part of Charles and Moira and Magneto's machinations, what's Emma up to for Krakoa? And it gives her a very good answer for it. It does a lot with a lot of characters. It seeds a lot of plots that some of which came to fruition, some of which just really don't. There's something going on with both Sebastian or Shinobi Shaw and Christian Frost that we have never, and I doubt ever will, get resolution on, because it's like, okay, well, this was a subplot that was supposed to support something else, but it doesn't matter anymore. We gotta redo some things.
Well, to your point, there's so much world building here. We're seeing corners of Krakoa that we never saw in House of X and Powers of 10. So we're getting introduced to places like the Hellfire Bay. We're getting introduced to these new forms of transportation and what it means, for things to grow on trees and what have you. But like you said, we're also learning about adversaries. We're learning about Russia. We're learning about Madripoor. We're learning about the ex Hellfire Club kids who have now turned into, what is it? Homines Verendi, which, is an ongoing concern for a while. We get the Cult of X, which is the humans that got messed up when Charles Xavier announced into everybody's skulls. They're
treating mutants as gods. It turns out that they are being led by Strife. We find out in Cable later. Man, I had forgotten until this exact moment how that plot resolved. Well, that was wild. That was a weird one.
Yeah. But there is so much going on. The data pages are very intelligently given to a CIA undercover operative at the X desk who we don't get introduced to until issue
8 or 9, somewhere around there.
But the actual human being, I don't think is on panel until she meets Storm
8
on
or
a
9.
Subway. Yeah. It's a while.
That's when we meet Dolores.
Mm-hmm.
And then she starts showing up other places. And then you remember in other books, wait a minute, the CIA is not always above board, even the nice people in it. So they are still the CIA.
Yeah. I think the main draw here is the Kate Pride stuff, the Emma stuff, and the drama.
Kate and Emma are the core of this book, and everyone else is secondary to them. Bishop, Iceman, Storm, doesn't matter. They are supporting. When Kate is not on page, everyone is asking, what's Kate up to? Where's Kate at?
Right.
Which is fun. She's the star of the book. You're allowed to have a central character.
I do really appreciate the new take on Pyro here. I love what's going on with Bishop as sort of this, spy who's going undercover and finding out intel on things. It's great to use these characters in this way. And it's a very straightforward, fun ride, especially when we get this great payoff at the very end of Kate, not only the funeral of Kate Pride, but the resurrection, when they finally figure out how to bring her back, because she has to phase through the egg, unlike breaking through the egg like her colleagues. And then the revenge against Sebastian Shaw in the 16th issue.
It's great. It's obviously a story that's saying, hey, we're going to take the first year of this book and have a rebirth for Kate Pride. We're going to age her up a little bit, grow her into a new character for a new era that still feels like a a good path for her. You know, people are like, oh, she's so violent. Her best friend was Wolverine. And Storm has a billion knives on her at all time. She's doing that specifically because earlier in the book, someone mentions how, yeah, Kate, she's not gonna Kitty, she's not gonna like give you an extra punch if you're down. This is her very textually pushing against everyone else's perceptions of her, which comes down in issue 12, where she, is rebirthed. She fully embraces, visually specifically, her Jewish identity.
Yep.
She comes out and, kisses a lady, which is great. I remember when that happened, everyone was really excited. And the leadership of Marvel is absolute cowards, absolute bone cowards at Marvel and Disney for not doing anything else with that. You idiots and fools.
It's true. But it is really refreshing to have Kate Pryde finally canonically gay, bi, just embracing being her.
Embracing who she is.
Yeah. And so I think another thing that's an asset to this book, we have not mentioned the art, but the book starts with, first of all, a series of absolutely ravishing Russell Dauterman covers. Throughout. We get Matteo Loli on most of the book, but towards the latter half, Stefano Caselli doing some fantastic work, and I think it helps to.
We also have Michelle Bandini in there on issue 3. We've got Lucas Wernreck, in there as well.
Does a little bit.
Mario Del Pinenio does a bit, but I mean, like, here's the thing. I really like Castelli's stuff. I'm not a huge fan of Loli.
Oh, okay. I like Loli's stuff quite a bit, but it's an interesting style for this book that is so character driven.
This is going to come out, and it's going to feel like a backhanded compliment, and I don't want it to feel that way. But with the art team and just Jerry Duggan's style, this feels like the most conventional superhero, conventional Marvel book that the line had at the time. It was X-Men doing X-Men things, also on a pirate ship now, and with closer to house style art than not.
That's fair, but I think it's necessary. When
I'm glad a book like this exists. Yeah, I don't disagree.
I feel like, especially at the same time when Hickman was kind of doing these episodic one-shot issues of X-Men that are darting around, it was really good idea to have somebody telling a consistent narrative about some of the most important characters on the cast. And I think the art's fantastic. I think it's really more of a matter of taste. The colors are fantastic. And
the colors, I think a lot of my issue with Loli's stuff early on is Federico Blee, who's a colorist I do not care for.
Okay. I mean, I
just don't like Blee's color palette.
Yeah. The book could be, how do I put this? Maybe a little bit more of contrasty. Like it does have a very bright and sunny feel to the book, which is interesting, and
I don't think this run of Marauders has a distinct visual identity in the way that a book like X-Force of this era, the Josh Cassara art felt different. Like Phil Noto's stuff on Cable felt very, specific. It had a look, a feel. It knew what it was, where I feel like Marauders felt like, hey, here's some Marvel guys that we need to give them a gig. And I think they gave Marauders a visual identity when they relaunched the book with Steve Orlando. Is it the right visual identity for the story Steve Orlando's talking about? Well, we'll figure that out when we rank that story. But I think like these are all house Marvel guys, in my opinion.
I see where you're coming from. I also think you're underselling the talent. It's the same thing with Marcus Toe on Excalibur. I think Toe is outstanding at times, and people don't give Toe the credit that he deserves for what it is he's doing. I agree. Are we leaning
Toe has a little
towards-
bit tighter resolution for me. Like, we're not talking about Excalibur right now.
No, but I'm trying to. I understand.
I know what you're doing. I'm telling myself that so I don't argue with you.
Yeah, friend. Not each of the books are going to have this, very stark visual identity, and I agree. Maybe this one is a little bit closer to just general house style, but I think it works for the story that it's trying to tell. And we've been talking about this for almost half an hour, so I think we probably like it. Why don't we try?
That's the thing. I really do like this story. This is where Duggan's best at, is a fun superhero story. He is not going to reinvent Marvel Comics. Jerry, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I don't think you want to reinvent Marvel Comics. Jerry is going to do a fun Marvel comic book superhero story. And that's what Marauders is. I like it because I have a podcast that I do with you, my friend, all about fun Marvel superhero comics.
Yeah, this is great. I do think just to give Jerry some bigger and bolder. I mean, when you talk about planet size and now X-Men 15, he's starting to dabble in some of this Hickman sci-fi weirdness, and I'm enjoying where that's going. So
I love that.
Yes.
I love that sci-fi weirdness. If the Lost episode wasn't lost, people would know how much I enjoyed Planet Size X-Men because we recorded it the day before it was released, and we got to talk to Jerry about it. And I wish that episode existed in anywhere except for the ether.
Well, I am hoping that as this episode is coming out the Monday after I was at New York Comic Con, that I have caught up with Jerry. So we'll see. But Zach, back to the list. Tell me about this list.
So the list is a wild thing, Adam. You wouldn't believe it, but there are 693 stories on it. In this list, it's on a road. It's on a road to 700, my man.
Lord.
It's ranked from best to worst, looking at the best and worst X-Men stories of all time with the House of X Powers of 10 at number 1. The number 100th being X-Men Alpha Flight. Number 200 being X-Force 1-2, a force to be reckoned with. Number 300 on our list is Dad from Uncanny X-Men 391. Number 400 on this list is Spider-Man versus Wolverine, the story where Spider-Man kills a dude. Number 500 on this list is the Muir Island saga. Spider-Man feels really bad about it, and he does kill a woman. Number 600 on this list is Wolverine Origins 37 through 40 Romulus. And then the Draco's at the bottom.
All right. I think we are probably in the top 150.
Let's see. What's it? I know we're above 200.
Yeah. 150
we're above
is
200.
The 4th issue of Generation X, Between the Cracks.
Oh, the sad Christmas issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably better than that.
Yeah.
Because that's in good company, because at 153 is like All New Wolverine 4 Sisters, which I think is our highest All New Wolverine.
Yes, I think so.
We are in the right spot of this list.
Well, let's take a look up the list just a little bit, and I think
this is not as good as Hickman's Giant Size X-Men at 127 as a whole.
I disagree 100%. Yes, and here's why. As I said on that episode, we definitely probably put Giant Size too high, because what Hickman was doing there was very minimal. It was artist showcase, and it was beautiful. But it was also a lot of fluff, and there was not a lot of content there. I think what Duggan is doing here in terms of the world building and the character building is a lot stronger than what was going on in Giant Size X-Men.
Which is, of course, above Inferno, the X-Men and X-Factor portion at 130.
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna say this. This is not better than Ultimate X-Men 1 through 6, the Tomorrow People.
I can deal with that. Yeah, that's fine. Because it's I think 121 Wells Fall and Rise of the New Mutants is probably better than this.
I like that Limbo arc of Bendis Uncanny better.
Yeah, I do too.
Blood Hungry is probably better.
No.
Do you think this is better than Blood Hungry?
Well, I mean, let's
Blood
think
Hunger's
about
got
it.
that Sam Keith art, my man.
I know, but Zach, you're underselling this. This is 13 issues of content with like all of the ground rules for what Hellfire is about and all of the back deals and everything. There's a freaking UFO that disguises itself as a submarine. I mean, there's a mask on a golf course because there's retired Marauders. We didn't even talk about Callisto. I mean, there's a lot going on here. And I feel like we're underselling this a little bit. And it's, listen, I love Sam Keith, but this is better than Peter David writing about cyber.
Okay, listen, that is fair. That is
Yeah.
fair. Okay, that's fine. Let's make it the 124. I think that's a fine spot. I don't want to. I think there's people who could argue about this list having some recency bias, and they're wrong.
Well, I think when we think about this era, we need to be able to admit that there is, I keep using the word consistency, but when was the last time there was these long stretches of just narrative coherence? You know,
Okay.
It's been a long time since everybody was on the same page in the same room talking about the same location and everybody being in dialogue as to what's happening. And
I'm looking up this list, Adam, and you're actually talking me into some things.
Okay.
I think my ceiling does need to be, at 102 we have the Hickman New Mutants, and I think that's better.
I would agree.
I think at 104 we have X-Men Black Emma Frost, which I think is better.
Mm-hmm.
At 112 we have Empire X-Men, which is really fun, but I know in my soul that Marauders was better than Empire X-Men.
Okay. All right. So
I know that's at 112. I know that's true.
You know I love Executioner's Song at 109.
105 is the Terra Verde arc of X-Force,
mm-hmm.
which I think, for me, definitely kind of wins because it has Josh Cassara drawing Weird Annihilation stuff.
I would agree. Yep.
And listen, bud, I just finished Born yesterday, and I'm a good third of the way into The Strange Bird today. So I am deep in my Vandermeer kick
that
right
stuff's
now.
So good.
Jeff Vandermeer writes some weird books, folks. They're good. Jeff Vandermeer, come write a Krakoa comic about Krakoa the Plant Man.
Did I tell you that I recently I'll tweet at him and he'll tweet back occasionally. And I did ask him because he was asking about doing interviews. And I said, any chance you like X-Men, Mr. Vandermeer? And
Did he say no?
He said no.
That's fine.
Which is a mistake on his part.
He also is not returning my emails recently.
So. Oh, okay.
Well, I've only emailed him once, and it was through the general contact page. So if anyone's got a better way to contact Jeff Vandermeer, hit me up. No, but the Terra Verde arc is better. You have Executioner's Song.
Yeah, but I could see putting this ahead of 107, which is Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix.
Okay, because we got Terra Verde at 104. We got X-Men Black Emma Frost at 104.
Mm-hmm.
Terra Verde at 105. Everything is Sinister from the Kieran Gillen.
That's pretty
Uncanny
good.
X-Men at 106. A story that's only getting better as the axe continues to fall.
They just referenced it in the Jean Grey one.
Everyone's like, Sinister is sitting around saying, hey, y'all know that I've done most of this before.
Right.
I think Further Adventures might be better.
Really?
It's moody.
I don't know why I'm arguing. I already agreed to 124. So I think I would, if we're moving it up the list, I think I would put it at 107.
107 above Further Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, above Wolverine Dupe.
Yes.
Above Executioner's Song.
Yeah. There's a lot of great stuff happening here.
You know what? I'm feeling wild tonight, Adam. It's moved up. It was going to be 124. It is now 107. It's Marauders by Jerry Duggan.
Yeah. Folks, if you, like I said, if you were reading all of those books in just published order, go back, check them out. You're going to be like, oh, the pandemic really was like this weird thing that made me think about these stories differently.
The pandemic sure was a time when time didn't work the way it should.
Nope.
Do you know what else didn't work the way it should, Adam?
Chris Claremont's 2000s X-Men run.
Yes, we're talking about the Revolutions. We're talking about the comics that inspired X-Men the movie.
Sure, it says that on the cover. I don't know if
It
I agree.
absolutely says that on the cover with the X-Men logo from the movie, or an approximation thereof.
Pretty wild that they chose this arc to put that branding on. Especially because if you just even look at this cover, you're going to be a little confused as to what you're looking at.
How many of the X-Men on this cover were in the movie? Because we're talking about the Crimson Pirates arc. It is Uncanny X-Men 384 and 385, as well as X-Men 104. The cover of 384 has the following characters on it: Beast, Cable, Gambit, Storm and Jean, who were in the movie, and not in the movie, but Killian of the Crimson Pirates. Adam, what do you know about Killian of the Crimson Pirates?
We are talking about those Crimson Pirates, everybody's favorite crew, and
they've sure appeared less than 10 times.
Crimson Pirates make very, very little sense. They are a grotesque group of pirates, space pirates, who work for a intergalactic, perhaps even omniversal slaver of
Tullamore Vogue. We all know Tullamore Vogue. Vaguely
Vogue.
Racist, but in a way I can't fully describe.
Yes, like a genie caricature from Aladdin. He's blue, he has a curly mustache, and wears a fez, not unlike the Shadow King. So,
he's got a lot of Shadow King in him. He kidnaps the X-Men. Storm escapes. Well, no, that's not the first issue. Is it the first issue? Yes, it is. He kidnaps. No, the first issue is the one where
he kidnaps
Adam. What happens in these comics? Because I have obviously I read them all just a few days ago, and it's running on pure vibes, and the vibes are not great.
In your total defense, this story is a mess and is really incoherent. So the story.
By the way, Adam Kubert on Uncanny, Linneo Francis Yu on the X-Men stuff. Great work from both of those guys.
Yep.
Not their best, but great work.
Wait, so did we say what we're covering here? Because this is Uncanny 384 and 385.
Yeah, 385, X-Men 104.
Okay. I didn't know if we said that. All right. So
Alexei Vazhin's in this.
Yes. And is Vazhin the one that gets... No, Vazhin is not the one that gets kidnapped.
Vazhin is the one who's not kidnapped.
Yes. The Minister of Defense of Russia, I believe, is kidnapped by the Crimson Pirates. And the X-Men are, I guess, interrogating Vogue in Vazhin's offices, and then the pirates break him out. So this part's probably the most coherent, right?
Yes, that takes a whole issue.
Right. Now, where it starts to get really weird is that now that the space pirates...
Wait, Adam, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Men, a team with Beast, Storm, Cable, Jean Grey, and Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who is leading the Uncanny X-Men at this point?
I believe it's Gambit, isn't it?
Yes, Gambit is leading the Uncanny X-Men. Rogue is leading the other team of X-Men.
Really strange.
Wild choices. Never really commented on, like, hey, it's kind of dumb that Gambit's leading us, right?
Absolutely. It's very, very strange. And so once the X-Men are kidnapped by
Tullamore Vogue.
And
the Crimson Pirates. You're talking about Killian, Kamari, Broadside.
It also turns out...
The Sea Dogs, Bloody Bess.
Yeah, did we want to do the lineup?
I already did.
Yeah. The Sea Dogs are like these... Are they like Tusk? Do they like self-replicate? What's going on with the Sea Dogs?
The Sea Dogs are just like little guys. They're just little guys.
They're all identical. So once they get kidnapped, we also find out that not only are they working for Vogue, but they're also working for a group called the Goth.
Oh, The Goth are bad.
So we have 3 layers here. We have Space Pirates, Crimson Pirates, we have Tullamore Vogue, and then above that we have they're all working for the Goth. And you would think, based upon what you see in the X-Men issue, that the Goth are like, I don't know, Hellraiser or something, right? Because like
they are putting everyone into bondage gear.
Yeah, they're imprisoning everybody with like leather helmets. It's really
which is
creepy.
What Kitty got imprisoned with in a story that again was never resolved at the start of this era. They were a big deal,
right? So the X-Men teams get split up. And then the story really starts to fall apart because Gambit's crew says that they are going on some kind of like independent mission or whatever. And then you switch over to Uncanny 385 and it sounds like that team of X-Men is all possessed. And so X-Men fight X-Men, but there's no real reason why.
Yeah, there's no real reason why. It's weird. The X-Men do also fight in that issue. Well, that issue gets weird because the X-Men go undercover at a nightclub owned by the Russians, I guess. But then also there's a guy named Manacle who his powers are bondage, spiky bondage.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is he one of the Goth?
I don't know.
Or is he just some guy that's
around?
Is
he a Crimson Pirate? Is he a Goth? Is he a Well, there are multiple Tullamore Vogue type people. Like they're
there's an entire race called the Slavers, Adam.
Right.
It's not a good race.
And they all look like Tullamore Vogue too, which is weird because like how do you know which one's Tullamore Vogue if they all look exactly
He's
the same?
The only one who's talking.
It's like the Mojos. Like they all look like Mojo.
Tullamore Vogue also has a not insignificant amount of mojo in him.
He's like Genie meets Mojo.
Tullamore Vogue is not my favorite X-Men villain.
Can you we also have failed to properly describe the actual supervillain known as the Goth. Can you give it a shot?
Yeah, so the Goth, who's the leader of the Goth who are, like Adam said, pinheady, Hellraiser, bondage dudes. Goth of the Goth is a sumo wrestler? He's Japanese. He's wearing some armor and he's sumo wrestler size.
Yeah.
Like he's comic book, I am a sumo wrestler size. So he's larger than life. It's so weird.
He has a monocle. Like what is going on when they introduce this character? It's like, there's no reason for the character to even be in the story. And it's so weird.
Yeah. I don't care for anything in this story. It's bad, and it's bad in such a way that I do not fully understand it.
Well, this idea of Gambit having Gambit's plan and consistently telling everybody, it's my plan, but then we don't really understand where his agency lies. As I said before we went on the air, it really feels like there is a missing issue between the issue of X-Men and 385. I checked. There's not. It even tells you at the end of X-Men issue, tune into Uncanny 385 for the conclusion. And it just doesn't make any sense. Claremont is just grasping at straws here. It is so weird.
You know, we talked recently about how, you know, maybe what would it be like if creators kept going.
Mm-hmm.
But I would argue that Claremont may have gotten out of X-Men at the best possible time for his reputation. It may have been that Chris Claremont, had he continued doing X-Men in a continuous run, would have ruined his own legacy instead of having like a 7-year break, 8-year break, and then coming back and be like, well, this is just new Claremont stuff now, guys. It's different. It's not the stuff you loved.
It's funny you say that because I did recently read the Wildcats arc that he did with Jim Lee right
Wait,
after.
you're talking about the unauthorized covert action team?
Yes, the covert action team. And it's really interesting because Claremont jumps on the book and pretty much ignores all of what Jim Lee and Brandon Choi have created so far and just brings over all of his tropes. So we get like Brood / Shadow King style stuff, and I don't know, like it's always Chris just bringing his tropes with him wherever he
Jim
goes.
Lee had to know what he was getting himself into,
Oh,
right?
100%. But this is another good example of that. You know, we've got these like bondage villains. There are hounds here.
There are
There's,
hounds.
you know, some weirdly fetishized, not fetishized, but like weirdly
It's not fetishized.
racist caricatures of Asian people. Like all of the things that we've seen along the line, like they just pop back up.
It's a whole lot of unfiltered Claremont at a time when Claremont was brought in to be the savior of the X-Men, and before Bob Harris and Joe Quesada said maybe not, actually.
Which is a shame because
It,
well, no.
if
Here's what's
I'm
a shame.
listening.
Here's what's a shame. Take a story like End of Grays, right? And we've got Chris Bocciolo doing the art, and we get the what is their name? The Shi'ar Death Squad.
Yeah, the Death Squad.
Death Squad, right? Like that's an example of, you know, like this kooky cast of characters, and they're being drawn in a really fun way. And I think that handled differently and with a different kind of storyline, the Crimson Pirates could actually have been like the Shi'ar Death Commandos, right? Like there is that capability with these goofy characters like Bloody Bess and Killian, but like I said before, there's no need for this triplicate layer of villains. Like, why are we dealing with
Yes.
pirates when we're now also dealing with the slavers? And then we're also dealing with the goth all at the same time. And over 3 issues, it just falls apart.
Adam, I'm going to say something that I think I remember from these issues, but I'm not sure. Does Storm get machine gun hands at one point?
Machine gun hands? That I don't remember.
Okay, good. Then I may have made that up. I know there's a character that gets machine gun hands at one point.
Wow. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Well,
Listen.
now I'm looking. When did that happen?
Hold on. It would be in the last issue of it.
I'm looking through it. I don't see the machine guns.
I could have sworn Storm got machine gun hands. I'm glad I'm wrong.
I wonder why. Why would she get machine gun hands?
I know one of the Neo had machine gun hands, but I thought this was different.
No, I'm not seeing any. Because Rogue basically just blows the goth up, like explodes him with Gambit powers. So definitely doesn't happen in 385. Maybe it happens in the X-Men issue.
Man, listen, I don't want to think about these comics anymore. And also, just to be fair and really to pass blame, I forgot Adam Kubert doesn't do the other one. Herman Garcia, Michael Ryan, and Randy Green do the art for the incomprehensible last issue. Herman Garcia, it's wild that he's so good now.
I mean, the art's fine. It's just
fine.
he has nothing to work with. Like the story doesn't make a damn bit of sense. There's no transitions. You have no idea what's happening page to page. So let's rank this. It's not very good. I think it's going to go at the minimum in the 400s, maybe the 500s.
This is worse than Revolutions.
Which is this is definitely in the 500s because this is worse than Muir Island Saga.
Adam, Revolutions is in the 600s. I assure you. It has to be.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's at 612. All right. So wow. I keep forgetting how many freaking stories we have.
Have you forgotten that most X-Men stories are actually kind of bad?
Well, you know, that's the nature of the list. This is worse than the Soul Sword trilogy at 628.
This is worse than Wolverine and Viper's Wedding at 635.
This is worse than War Song and End Song at 645 and 646.
Is it worse than the 12?
I don't know if I want to put it
That's at
low.
659.
Yeah, I don't think it's that low. Looking up the list, and I mean, we're in a perfect spot because there are a lot of stories here that are similarly incomprehensible. And we have Fabian's X-Men Forever at 652, which I like.
Fabian's X-Men Forever is better.
I agree.
He has the audacity to have the main character of the story be the robot version of the ship from X-Force.
Yeah. X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse.
the prelude comic to the game.
Yes.
I like the idea of a prelude comic to the game, X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse, better. It does a better job of being the comic that inspired the game than this does being the comic that inspired the movie.
Yeah. This might be just a like a tiny little bit more easy to understand than the Shatterstar Saga at 658. So I think I would give this the edge.
Okay, yes, but I'm going to say at 657, Chuck Austin's Polaris and Havoc's wedding issues are better.
Yeah, they do make more sense.
Those are better comics than the Crimson Pirates introduction.
Wow. Okay, so that's going to be our new 658, folks. Don't read those.
Now, some people are going to say that we dislike Chris Claremont, which I think as a creator couldn't be farther from the truth.
No.
Do we make fun of Chris Claremont? Absolutely. It's so fun to do. He makes it so easy. But credit where credit is due. Sometimes the guy's got stuff. Like in these issues that we're talking about, it's X-Men. No, it's not.
No,
it's not. Nightcrawler 8 through 12 from the 2015-2014 Nightcrawler story that he did with Todd Knock.
We've talked about this series before, right?
We've talked about the first 4 issues where Nightcrawler kisses his girlfriend's sister. We have not talked about the middle chunk where Nightcrawler has a few bad days and meets Bloody Bess. But we are going to talk about the end chunk, which is 8 through 12, where Bloody Bess yells at Nightcrawler to come help her, and he just does.
Yeah. Teleports like halfway around the world. And gosh darn it, this works. You know, like it's so funny to be belly aching about these Crimson Pirates and how nonsensical that story was, and to turn around and have Bloody Bess, Killian, and Tullamore Vogue is back, and yet this story is clear. It makes sense. It has a beginning, a middle, and end, and gosh darn it, I liked it.
Each issue has a beginning, middle, and end. It's a whole thing. He's referencing Rick Remender, Uncanny X-Force for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's bringing in Bloody Bess. They accidentally the Crimson Pirates, wouldn't you know it, they did find one of the Omega triplets that the Shadow King was put in at the end of Uncanny X-Force. And darn it, they released the Shadow King.
It wouldn't be a latter Claremont story without the Shadow King, but the man loves a good possession story. So
would love it for the Shadow King to have been in a good story in between his first appearance back in the 70s and that Vita Ayala story with Rod Reese. Anywhere in between, if there was a good Shadow King story, it would have been great.
It's a real hoot when Claremont just takes him out to play. But
Claremont's written one good issue with the Shadow King ever, and he's not stopping anytime soon.
The man loves his Shadow King. So
loves the Shadow King.
Essentially, we have Nightcrawler, Bloody Bess, and a team of X-Men from Wolverine and the X-Men, essentially going off to try and free a planet or a city's worth of omniversal children who are being enslaved by Tullamore Vogue. And,
so what happens? What happens is the Shadow King comes out. They eventually beat the Shadow King. But a couple of their students, Rico, who is a Scorpion boy, and Ziggy Karst, who's just a Kitty Pryde.
But also kind of a Forge. Like,
kind of a forge too.
Yeah.
Kitty Pryde was also kind of a forge when Claremont was writing her.
yeah. And we get a
They get captured by the Crimson Pirates, and they have to go rescue them and find out that, oh no, the slavers have been enslaving.
yes, very actively. And I mean, that's what happens. Todd Nauck has a great handle on these characters. I love the cartoony style with this. And I think that Claremont takes really good advantage of the Wolverine and the X-Men setup of saying, okay, well, there's these kids at this school, and we're going to use this team of the X-Men to back up Nightcrawler as the supporting cast. He again continues to utilize these flashbacks to interacting with Wolverine and the classic X-Men team really, really well. So we get a classic Danger Room sequence with Kitty Pryde at the helm of the controls. And it's hard not to like this. It's fun.
It's really fun. There's an issue, number 11, where Knock really kind of goes off, and he's just filling the page with as much as he can, and it's really cool to see.
Are you talking about the border that starts to generate of all the little kids' faces?
It's all the kids who are paying attention to Nightcrawler saving them from being enslaved, while at the same time there is also an auction going on for Ziggy, Rico, and then halfway through for Nightcrawler, and Nightcrawler immediately steals all of the money from the auction because he's so cool. It legitimately rules. Bloody Bess is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's just a Claremont lady.
Yeah.
Like, she's a
swashbuckling pirate. She's having a good time.
All it is. It's great that Nightcrawler gets to kiss her.
It's so really funny at the end of this story when Nightcrawler's like, yeah, she's a murderer, but we totally boned down, and
she did a little bit. She was not innocent of the thousands of child slaves.
Right. So,
but hold on, she was hot.
Yes.
And that's a very Nightcrawler, Chris Claremont thing to do.
Do we also get to check in with Nightcrawler and his potentially deceased, sort of like in a limbo area, girlfriend, sister, Amanda Sefton? And do they make out in like that place? Yes, that also happens here.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I don't know what else you want from a Chris Claremont Nightcrawler story than for him to be making out with multiple ladies.
I think this is a lot of fun, and it's
a very fun book. This is probably Claremont's, like, this series is pound for pound Claremont's best work in a spell.
Yeah, but what works about this is that he doesn't overcomplicate it. He keeps it simple. There's not a preponderance of dialogue. The script is pretty tight, actually, which is weird to say about latter Claremont. And Nauck's art, extremely legible, very clear, gets the models of the characters, and it's fun. It's just a fun kind of silly swashbuckling adventure in a way that last story it didn't make any sense.
I would read more of this series.
I would too.
If it existed. Like, it's the one thing that tricks you, is like, is Claremont actually still good? And I think the answer is, as it has always been with Chris Claremont, depends on how well you're editing him.
Absolutely. And there is definitely a hand here that's keeping things in check, but I don't know. I think you can find similar energy in parts of what he's doing with his Gambit series right now, but
you can find similar energy. You have an unrestrained Claremont there. That's the thing.
Right.
I think what you're seeing a lot in Gambit is actually, in my opinion, is his artist, Sid, whose last name I'm forgetting.
Kotian.
Sid Kotian. Thank you. Who has a real fun cartoony style that is, like, really elevating a lot in it. Mm-hmm. I think Claremont may be overriding that book a bit.
Well, you get more of the free flow dialogue, but
it's just like, why in that book is he referencing Storm's super ancient wizard grandma?
Because he can and he wants to and whatever.
That's what That's what editors need to be there for, is to be like, Chris, my friend,
Stick to the story.
I don't know if this is additive. No. However, Nightcrawler is great. At 396, we have the first 4 issues of this, and I like this arc better than those 4.
I do too. I think it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. So I think we should be moving up from there.
363 we have, and I know you don't like this position, but the Return of the War Piece from Excalibur.
Well, I like the art in that. The story leaves something to be desired. There are werewolves in this story that we were just talking about.
The werewolves do show up, and yet I oddly feel great about them showing up.
Yeah, it could have gone really. When they did show up, I was like, "Really, Chris?" And then I was like, "Oh no!"
You thought it was going to be like a hat on a hat, like the goth on the slavers on the. But no, it's like we are also bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we also be in this space story? And it's like, okay, that's fair.
Makes sense.
Give me some werewolves.
Definitely don't think this is as good as the issues around Uncanny 350 at 346.
No, I think it's lower than that.
It's not as cool as when Sabretooth was in charge of Weapon X at 354.
Oh, that's when Sabretooth got himself a tiger.
Yeah, that's better.
Baby tiger. I hope that baby tiger's doing well. Maybe that's what Victor Lavelle's going to be writing about in Sabretooth and the Exiles.
We're going to find out.
This is better than X-Men Gold 2013.
I would agree.
Not as good as the X-Men Legacy Age of X Aftermath right above it.
Okay. All right. So this is going to be our new 357.
This is our new 357. And you know what? Here's the thing. If you've not read this, because it's a later day Claremont thing, check out this one. This one's pretty good.
It's a lot of fun. Nock is killing it with the art, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Well, I enjoyed talking to my friend Adam, the only person I want to talk about comics with. I enjoyed talking about these with you. I also enjoyed doing this for Chris Manning. If you want to be like Chris again, patreon.com/comicsxf. Adam, what do you got going on?
Well, I guess I just went to New York Comic Con, even though as we're recording this, I haven't gone yet. So I hope that
everyone understands that this is not a live show. If you guys don't understand that this isn't a live show, don't read X-Men, please.
But folks can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. I did decide last night that I was going to do an Inktober. So I'm doing Ayako Cooktober. So I'm drawing the denizens of Ayako.
I love it. I love the theme. It was great.
Whatever. So I'm kind of doodling those out.
I saw Cobalt Never Held today, and I gave him a hug or a like. I was like, oh, I'll hold you, Cobalt Never Held.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. Zach, how about you?
I'm reading books, Adam.
Yes, you are.
I'm reading books that aren't X-Men.
Born is great, isn't it?
Born was great. I liked it a lot. It scratched the itch I have about some sci-fi, but without being like, and here is the world that was built. It's mostly a story about people in a dysfunctional relationship.
Yeah.
It turns out I don't actually care about world building. I do care about husband and wife drama.
I also care about a giant bear who walks around and is like
Mord flies.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Flies.
I care about a squid sea anemone man who is trying to understand what it means to be human.
Maybe we should start a Jeff Vandermeer pod.
Adam, do you want to pivot to just talking about the works of Jeff Vandermeer? Because I have not read Ambergeese.
I have not either. It's
sitting over here.
Yeah.
The City of Saints and Madmen.
I have yet to read it. I'm looking forward to it.
It's because it feels to me, as I've read the first part of it, like the most traditional, like, here is sci-fi fantasy world building where a fork is actually called a Schragrabrain.
I'll get to it at some point.
I will. I have to take a break after Strange Bird.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I got to refresh my system.
Because you already read Dead Astronaut.
I have read Dead Astronauts.
I love that book.
Dead Astronauts is so good. Folks, go read Dead Astronauts by Jeff Vandermeer. If you want a book that's less plot and more vibes.
That's all trippy, man. It's great.
It's like 50% plot, and then halfway through the book it says, but what if we stopped with the plot and instead just did weird short stories about like what it is feels like to die as a whale creature fish.
Repeatedly.
Or a second person view of a madman creating a duck that's possibly his
duck.
father,
God.
possibly in his own brain.
Wow. Yeah, we've really gone off track here. So
Folks, if we're going to start ranking all of Jeff Vandermeer's work, you do need to give us money at patreon.com/comicsxf, and we'll do it for the site. Next week, Adam, maybe we'll do a New York Comic Con. Maybe we won't.
No, I'm almost positive you will have a New York Comic Con super special next week, folks. So tune in.
Or we won't have an episode. That's what we're going to do.
One or the
We'll just skip. We'll just skip, and then the next time you'll hear us is Halloween. But until then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!